The hospital room was quiet. Too quiet. Derek Jameson stood stiffly at the foot of the hospital bed, eyes locked on the still, pale face of the woman he had once promised to spend forever with. Camille. His wife. The machine beside her had stopped beeping just moments ago. A nurse had walked in, checked the monitor, and silently turned it off. The flat line on the screen matched the feeling in Derek's chest. Not sadness. Not grief. Just silence. She was gone. There were no tears in his eyes. Not even a sigh. He didn't move closer. He didn't reach for her hand. Instead, he stood there like a statue, feeling the weight of time finally run out. Then, his phone buzzed. He didn't even flinch. He knew who it was without checking. Vanessa. The other woman. The one he'd been living with for months while Camille lay dying in this room. The woman now 7 months pregnant with his child. Camille had passed only minutes ago, and already Derek was wondering how soon he could leave. The thought shocked even him a little, but he couldn't help it. He hadn't truly loved Camille in years. The cancer had only made things worse. She had been a shadow for so long, fading away piece by piece. In truth, a part of him had already buried her months ago. Still, he stayed in the room, if only for appearances. The nurse gave him a respectful nod, asked if he needed a moment alone. He nodded but didn't say a word. She left quietly, leaving the door slightly ajar. Derek looked at Camille's face. It was still, peaceful in a way. But there was something else there. Something almost knowing, as if even in death, she had something left to say. And she did. That morning, Camille's lawyer had called. A man named Gerald Worth. Quiet, well-spoken, serious. He said Camille had urgently updated her will just days ago. Derek didn't think much of it at the time. He assumed she was preparing for the end, finalizing funeral details, maybe sorting out her old belongings. He hadn't paid attention. Now, standing in that cold, lifeless room, something about Gerald's voice echoed back to him. She made changes that may concern you, Gerald had said. Concern? He didn't like the sound of that. But what could she possibly have left behind? They didn't own much. A small house, some life insurance. She had been a schoolteacher. Modest savings. Not enough for surprises. Still, Camille had always been smarter than she looked. And more patient. Derek shoved his phone back into his pocket and turned away from the bed. He didn't say goodbye. He just walked out. 4 months earlier. Camille wasn't always this weak. She had been full of life once, funny, sharp, elegant. A woman with purpose. She had worked as an English teacher at a local high school, where her students adored her. She loved poetry, especially Maya Angelou. Her favorite line was, "Still, I rise." She used to say it whenever things got hard. Derek used to find it inspiring. Then, annoying. Their marriage had started well. Love, laughter, dreams. But like many stories, it cracked under pressure. Especially when Derek lost his job at the marketing firm. He blamed the economy. She didn't argue. She supported him, emotionally and financially, while he searched for something else. But nothing stuck. Then came her diagnosis. Stage 4 breast cancer. She had found the lump herself. She didn't cry when the doctor gave her the news. She simply asked what needed to be done and started making a treatment plan. Derek didn't handle it the same way. He hated hospitals. Hated the smell, the endless waiting, the look of death hanging in the air. At first, he went with her. Then he made excuses. Work. Headaches. He started staying out later, stopped answering her texts right away. That's how he met Vanessa. Vanessa. Vanessa was 29. Blonde, bold, and full of ambition. She worked in real estate and made good money flipping homes. She met Derek at an open house. He wasn't even looking to buy, just wandering. She liked his charm. He liked her energy. One drink became two. 2 drinks became a night. A night became a secret. At first, he felt guilty. Camille was sick, fragile, fighting for her life. But guilt is a strange thing. It fades when ignored long enough. He told Vanessa the truth eventually. That his wife was dying. That their marriage had ended in everything but paperwork. Vanessa didn't seem to mind. She said things like, "You deserve to be happy," and, "You can't save someone who's already gone." She got pregnant within 2 months. Derek told himself it was fate. Camille's quiet strength. She never confronted him. Not once. Camille never shouted, never demanded explanations. She simply grew quieter. More distant. But there was something in her eyes that said she saw more than she let on. She began writing again, pages and pages in her old journals. Sometimes she'd ask strange questions out of nowhere. Do you believe people get what they deserve in the end? Do you think secrets always stay buried? Derek would brush her off, call them side effects of medication. But the truth was, her calmness unsettled him. One night, she asked him, "Will you be there when I go?" He lied and said yes. Inside, he hoped she'd pass while he was away. The funeral. The service was simple. Rain fell on black umbrellas. Camille's sister, Marianne, stood near the casket with red eyes and clenched fists. She didn't speak to Derek once. People whispered. They knew. Everyone knew. Derek and Vanessa had been careless. Seen together too often. Laughing too loudly while Camille faded away. After the burial, Gerald, the lawyer, approached. "She left you something," he said. "It's important." Derek expected paperwork, maybe a bank statement. Instead, Gerald handed him a sealed envelope. Camille's handwriting was on the front. Inside was a note. "If you're reading this, I'm already gone. But I want you to know, I knew everything. And you're about to find out what that means. Attend the reading of the will. Don't skip it. Trust me." Derek blinked. His throat went dry. What had she done? The will reading. A week later, he sat in a quiet room in Gerald's office. Camille's family was there. So was a young woman he didn't recognize, nervous, holding a leather notebook. She looked barely 20, her hands shaking in her lap. Gerald began. Camille had left small gifts to friends, colleagues, and charities. Her books went to her students. Her jewelry to Marianne. Her old car to her neighbor who used to drive her to chemo. Then came Derek's turn. "To my husband, Derek Jameson," Gerald read, "I leave my journals," with a request that he read every word before making any final decisions. Derek raised an eyebrow. Journals? But the next line hit harder. "And I leave him the decision." Gerald handed Derek another sealed envelope marked "Private." Inside was a single sentence. "Choose your inheritance. Or your reputation." What the hell does that mean? Derek snapped. Gerald didn't flinch. "She wanted you to read the journals before asking that." Then the young woman in the corner stood up. "I'm Emily," she said. "Camille asked me to give this to you." She handed over the leather notebook. Derek stared at it, unsure if he wanted to open it. Emily looked at him with eyes full of pity. Then she left without another word. The journal. Back at the apartment, Derek poured a drink, sat down, and opened the notebook. Camille's handwriting filled the first page. "You thought I was dying quietly. You were wrong. I had time. Time to dig, to learn, to write. And I learned things about you, about her, about what you've done. If you're reading this, you've already started losing. Keep reading. Derek's breath caught. What had she found? Before he could turn the page, his phone lit up. A text. From an unknown number. She told me everything. You don't know me, but we need to talk. Before it's too late. His hand shook as he read the message again. Camille was gone. But the truth she left behind had just begun to unfold. Derek didn't sleep that night. He sat on the edge of the bed with Camille's journal in his lap, the leather cover cool and smooth beneath his fingers. The words she had written on the first page repeated in his head like an echo he couldn't silence. You thought I was dying quietly. You were wrong. Keep reading. Her handwriting had changed. It wasn't the soft, delicate script she used in birthday cards. It was sharper, firmer, as if her hands were weak, but her determination had grown stronger. Derek stared at the next page for nearly 10 minutes before finally turning it. What he read made his chest tighten. I didn't say a word when you stayed out late. I didn't ask when your lies got lazy. I was dying, but I wasn't blind. Vanessa doesn't love you. You were a transaction. And soon, you'll realize she's already cashed out. Derek swallowed hard. His instincts kicked in: deny, discredit, destroy. Camille must have been hallucinating. She had been on morphine. She was angry, emotional, grasping for meaning. But the words continued. You should have checked her drawer, Derek. The one next to your bed in her apartment. She kept something there. Bank slips. A second phone. A different name. Don't believe me? Go look. He froze. Then slowly, he stood up. Vanessa's apartment, 2:47 a.m. Derek used his spare key. Vanessa was sleeping. He tiptoed past her and into the bedroom, his breath shallow, hands cold. He opened the drawer she never let him touch. Inside were documents. A phone, definitely not the one he knew about. He turned it on. Locked. He'd deal with that later. Then he found the envelope. Cash. Neatly stacked. Nearly $12,000. Under it, bank receipts, transfers made from an unfamiliar account into hers. Monthly. Always on the 14th. The sender's name, H. Marks. Who the hell is H. Marks? He whispered. He barely had time to think before Vanessa's voice rang from the doorway. What are you doing? Derek turned, the cash still in his hands. Vanessa's expression changed from sleepy confusion to tight-lipped fury. You went through my stuff? Who's H. Marks? He demanded. She narrowed her eyes. None of your business. You're pregnant with my child and I'm paying your rent, it damn well is my business. Vanessa crossed her arms, unshaken. You think you're the only one who can have secrets? His mouth opened, then closed. You don't want to know the truth, she said, stepping closer. Because it's not just about me. It's about Camille. And that girl you met today, Emily? Yeah, she's not just some messenger. Derek blinked. What do you mean? Vanessa grabbed a coat and her purse. You want answers? Go find her. Ask her who she really is. And with that, she walked out, leaving Derek in the dark, holding the cash and the phone, more confused than ever. The next morning, tracking Emily. Derek barely slept. As soon as the sun rose, he called Gerald, Camille's lawyer. That girl, Emily. The one from the will reading. Do you have her number? Gerald hesitated. She was instructed to deliver Camille's journal, not to get involved. She already is, Derek said sharply. Give me the number. An hour later, he dialed it. Emily answered on the second ring. I was expecting you. I need to talk to you. A pause. Then, fine. 1 hour. Meet me at 62 Briar Lane. Bring the journal. Briar Lane. The address led Derek to a quiet suburban street. Older houses. Neatly kept lawns. He parked and approached the small yellow house. Emily opened the door before he knocked. She looked nervous, but not afraid. You have questions, she said. I want answers, he snapped. She gestured toward the living room. Sit. Derek entered. The place was modest but clean. Bookshelves lined the wall. A picture of Camille sat on the table. Young, smiling, holding a baby. He stared at it. Who is the baby? Emily sat opposite him. That's me. Derek looked up, stunned. What? I'm her daughter. Derek blinked hard. No. That's impossible. She had me when she was 19. Gave me up for adoption. She never told anyone except Gerald. When she got sick, she found me. Everything in the room tilted. You're lying. Emily shook her head. She met me 5 months ago. We spent time together. She told me everything about you, and Vanessa. Derek's mouth went dry. Emily continued. She knew you were cheating. She saw the receipts. She had me help her dig. We followed Vanessa. Took pictures. Hired a private investigator. You what? Emily opened a folder. Inside were photographs, Vanessa with a man in a suit. Kissing. Holding hands. A parking receipt in the name Harold Marks. She's not just cheating on you, Emily said softly. She's been with Harold for years. You were the fool in between. Derek gripped the folder. Why didn't Camille tell me? She wanted you to see it for yourself. She wanted you to feel what she felt, betrayed, powerless. Derek stood abruptly. I don't believe you. Emily didn't flinch. Check the photos. Check the account transfers. Ask yourself why a dying woman spent her last energy documenting your betrayal instead of begging for your attention. He stormed out. But the folder came with him. That night, revelation. Derek sat alone in his car for hours. He stared at the photos, the receipts, the time-stamped text messages Camille had somehow obtained. Vanessa and Harold had been meeting at hotels. Restaurants. Banks. Harold was real. And Camille had known everything. But one question haunted him. Why had she still left him the choice in her will? The journal remained unfinished. He turned the next page. You hurt me, Derek. But I never hated you. I pitied you. You chased happiness in all the wrong places. I wanted you to have a choice, finally. But real choice only comes after you've lost everything. Only then can you see what matters. The rest of this journal will decide who you become. And how much you lose before you learn. Suddenly, there was a knock at his window. He jumped. A man stood outside, tall, in his 50s, dressed in gray. Derek rolled the window down halfway. Derek Jameson? Yes. Who are you? The man pulled out a badge. Private investigator. Camille's name was on the file. She hired me. There's something you need to know. Vanessa isn't who she says she is. You're in danger. Derek sat frozen in the driver's seat, staring at the private investigator standing outside his window. Danger? Derek repeated, his voice tight. What do you mean I'm in danger? The man handed him a folder. My name's Grant Weaver. Camille hired me 6 months before she passed. She had suspicions about Vanessa. About you. But mostly, about something darker. And she was right. Derek took the folder and opened it with trembling fingers. Inside were high-resolution photographs. Vanessa, again with Harold marks. Some were grainy, taken from a distance. Others were close-up. Hotel rooms. Office buildings. A bank. Why would Camille care about this? Derek muttered. She was dying, why waste time on all this surveillance? Grant looked him in the eye. Because she suspected something that went beyond cheating. Derek flipped to the next page in the folder. A name he didn't recognize jumped out at him. Celeste Marshall. Missing, 2019. Last seen with Vanessa in Atlanta, Georgia. What is this? Derek asked, his mouth going dry. Grant's voice lowered. Vanessa's real name is Vanessa Marshall. She changed it when she moved to Chicago 3 years ago. Before that, she was investigated in 2 states. Fraud. Identity theft. And the Celeste Marshall case, well, she was Vanessa's cousin. They lived together. Derek shook his head. No. No, you're wrong. Vanessa is a liar, Grant cut in. And possibly dangerous. The deep dive. Back at home, Derek paced his apartment, the folder open on the coffee table, Camille's journal beside it. Every piece of the puzzle he had once dismissed now seemed like a loaded trap, one he had walked into blindly. He read more of the report Grant had provided. Vanessa and Harold Marks opened a joint offshore account 2 years ago under the names Vera Charles's and Henry M. According to surveillance and traced financial records, Vanessa orchestrated multiple high-level cons, targeting men with assets, men in emotional crisis. Derek's stomach turned. He had been that man in crisis. His marriage with Camille was falling apart. He'd been vulnerable. Reckless. And now? He was alone. Camille was gone. The woman he left her for might have been planning something far worse than betrayal. His phone buzzed. Vanessa. He didn't answer. But a text came through. We need to talk. It's urgent. I'm not who you think I am. Meet me at the lake house. Tonight. The lake house. Camille's family's old property. Now in his name, thanks to the will. Why would Vanessa want to meet there? Was this a setup? A confession in the dark. Derek arrived at the lake house just after 10 p.m. The moon cast a silver glow on the water. The house stood silent, still filled with memories, Christmas mornings, anniversaries, Camille laughing in the kitchen. Now it felt haunted. He stepped inside, the wooden floorboards creaking under his weight. Lights were off. Just a single lamp glowed in the corner of the living room. Vanessa stood by the fireplace, wearing a black coat, her hair pulled back. She didn't look scared. She looked ready. You came, she said. Derek didn't respond. He dropped the folder on the coffee table. She glanced at it, her face unreadable. Why? He asked finally. Why me? Vanessa sighed. Because you were easy. Derek flinched. Honesty hit harder than lies. You were already pulling away from Camille, she continued. You were chasing something. Excitement. Escape. I just made myself the answer. He stared at her. Was any of it real? She actually smiled. Not at first. Silence stretched between them. But then, she said softly, Camille changed the game. She found out everything. I don't know how. She left you everything, but gave me something too. Derek's heart pounded. What? She gave me a letter. Told me I had a choice. Like she gave you. Vanessa reached into her purse and pulled out a sealed envelope. Camille's handwriting again. Derek stepped forward, but Vanessa held it back. She said I could walk away. Tell the truth. Or let the past consume me. She said people like me rarely get a second chance. Her voice cracked for the first time. I didn't kill Celeste, she whispered. But I didn't help her either. I knew she was spiraling. I left her. Took her ID. Changed my name. And ran. Derek stared at her, rage and sorrow boiling together. You destroyed my life. Vanessa nodded slowly. I know. But I didn't expect her to be so merciful. She handed him the letter. Then turned and walked out. Camille's letter to Vanessa. Vanessa. If you're reading this, it means you've already broken him the way you planned. But you're not beyond hope. I don't hate you. I pity you. Whatever you're running from, face it. The truth has claws, but it frees you. Let this be the end of your games. Let it be the start of your healing. I won't be here to see it. But I believe everyone deserves one last chance to change, asterisk. Derek finished reading and sank into the couch. He had never known such mercy. Camille had been the one wronged. Betrayed. Dying. Yet she had managed to see beyond revenge. She had given him a chance. And given Vanessa a choice. But what about Emily? A hidden box. The next morning, Derek returned to the lawyer's office. Gerald greeted him with the same calm demeanor. I need the rest, Derek said. Of what Camille left. I need the full picture. Gerald nodded. She left one final item. I was instructed to give it to you only if you asked for it. He returned moments later with a small wooden box. Inside was a flash drive, and a key. A key to what? Derek asked. Gerald's eyes held weight. To the safety deposit box in New Orleans. Where it all began. Derek blinked. Camille's hometown? Gerald nodded. She said if you made it this far, you'd be ready for the truth about everything. Even her. Emily's revelation. Before heading to New Orleans, Derek stopped by Emily's house again. She let him in silently. I saw Vanessa, he said. She confessed. Camille gave her a letter. Emily looked surprised, but not shocked. She always believed in redemption, Emily said. Even when people didn't deserve it. Derek studied her. Why did Camille bring you into this? Why not go to the police or expose Vanessa herself? Emily gave a small, sad smile. Because she knew people like you needed to feel the truth. Not just hear it. She wanted you to understand the weight of your choices. Derek nodded slowly. What's in New Orleans? He asked. Emily's eyes darkened. She told me not to say. Only that when you opened that box, nothing in your life would ever be the same again. The journey begins. Later that night, Derek boarded a plane. The flash drive remained untouched in his pocket. He didn't know what secrets Camille had buried in New Orleans, but the mystery was no longer about Vanessa. Or betrayal. It was about Camille herself. Who she was. What she had known. And what final truth she had left behind, waiting for him to discover. But as the plane ascended into the clouds, Derek realized something terrifying. If Camille had uncovered so much about Vanessa, what had she uncovered about him? The train slid into New Orleans under a gray sky, rain tapping against the windows like restless fingers. Derek hadn't slept. His eyes were bloodshot, his mind racing. The wooden box sat on his lap like a stone. He'd stared at the flash drive more than once, wondering whether to plug it into his laptop. But a voice, Camille's voice, seemed to whisper, not yet. Not until you're ready. New Orleans smelled of damp earth, jasmine, and secrets. Camille had always called it the city that sings and haunts. Derek stepped onto the platform, clutching the box and key, feeling like a man about to enter a tomb. He didn't know yet that this journey would unearth the woman he thought he knew, and expose a version of Camille that would shake him to the core. The first clue, a childhood address. With only the key and a few documents in the box, Derek found Camille's childhood home. The small, red-bricked house sat at the edge of the garden district. An old woman with clouded eyes opened the door. "Camille," the woman croaked when she saw Derek. "I'm her." "I was her husband," he said softly. She passed. The woman's face fell. "Oh. I figured. She used to visit, every year until about 5 years ago." Then she stopped. "Who are you to her?" Derek asked. "Her aunt. Raised her when her mother, well, couldn't." Derek blinked. "I thought Camille's mother raised her." The woman snorted. "Is that what she told you?" Buried past, unearthed truth. The woman, Aunt Thelma, made them tea, her hands shaky with age. "She was just a child when it happened," she said. "Only 9 when her father disappeared. Police never found him. Camille always believed her mother had something to do with it." Derek's eyes widened. "Her father disappeared?" Thelma nodded. "Left one morning for work. Never came back. Her mother was a broken thing, drank more than she spoke. Camille grew up too fast. Why didn't she ever tell me?" Derek whispered. Thelma gave him a long, quiet look. "Maybe she didn't want you to see the cracks." She handed him an envelope Camille had left years ago, just in case someone came asking. Inside was a note. "Derek. If you found this, you know the world I came from. I didn't hide it out of shame, I hid it because I didn't want it to become your burden. But now, you need to see everything. Go to the safe deposit box. The truth is waiting. Love. Camille." The deposit box. Derek stood in the bank lobby 30 minutes later, the key tight in his fist. A clerk escorted him to a private vault room. She slid the drawer open and left him alone. Inside was a single manila envelope. He opened it. 2 passports, one American, one French. Both for Camille. One under her married name, Camille Westwood. The other under a different name, Camille Dupont. There was also a handwritten journal entry. It began with a date, March 3, 2018. "I saw him again. The man who called himself Martin Hale. I knew him years ago as someone else, my father's friend. The one who gave me money to stay quiet. He's running a scheme again, this time targeting vulnerable women with inheritance money. I think Vanessa may be involved. She doesn't know I've traced her. But there's something deeper. Something rotten. I can't just let it go. If anything happens to me." This is where the trail begins. Start with Martin Hale. End with the truth. Martin Hale. Derek's hands trembled. Vanessa. Martin Hale. His name matched one of the offshore account holders listed in Grant's file. So this wasn't just betrayal, it was a coordinated con. Camille had been tracking them, maybe even blackmailing them quietly, trying to protect her assets, her legacy. He pulled out the flash drive. There was no more waiting. Back at a quiet hotel, he plugged it in. A video loaded. Camille's face appeared, thinner than he remembered, her voice weak but clear. Camille's message. "If you're watching this, Derek, then I'm gone. You were never meant to be part of this. You were the man I loved, even when you didn't love me back. But you got caught in their web. And I needed to make sure you'd be okay. Vanessa isn't just a mistress. She's part of a ring that lures men, mostly widowers or married men in crisis, bleeds them dry, then vanishes. Martin Hale runs the whole operation. He used to work for a family friend. But I believe he was responsible for my father's disappearance. I wanted justice, Derek. And I still do. I've left everything you need in this file: names, accounts, photos. Give them to the authorities. Or don't. But promise me this. Don't let her raise our child in lies. If it's yours, she'll use it as a shield. If it's not, she'll use it as bait. Either way, don't let history repeat itself. The blood test. Camille had mailed him something else. A sealed envelope. Inside was a paternity test. Child of Vanessa Marshall. Alleged father, Derek Westwood. Result, 0% probability of paternity. Derek's vision blurred. The baby wasn't his. None of it had been real. He had abandoned a dying woman for a lie. He had sold out love for lust. And Camille had known the entire time, but never humiliated him. Never fought back. Just prepared. The phone call. His phone rang. Emily. Where are you? She asked, her voice tense. In New Orleans. I found everything. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, Vanessa just tried to contact me. Derek's body stiffened. What? She said she was leaving the country. Asked me to forgive her. She said she's scared of what Hale might do now that the money's gone. What money? You don't know? Derek checked the flash drive again. Another folder. Financial transfers. Camille had emptied the joint offshore account. Every last cent. She hadn't just written a will. She had executed revenge. A face in the crowd. That night, Derek walked the streets of New Orleans, haunted. He passed a jazz club Camille had once taken him to. Then he saw a man standing at the corner, talking on a burner phone. Tall. Clean-shaven. Distinct scar on his left cheek. Derek recognized him from the surveillance photo in the folder. Martin Hale. Their eyes locked. The man walked away calmly. Too calmly. And just like that, he disappeared into the night. The storm ahead. Back at the hotel, Derek sat at the edge of the bed, every bone in his body aching with regret. Camille had known she was dying, but instead of asking why him, she had asked how to protect even those who hurt her. He had been cruel. He had been blind. But now he had a choice: disappear and live quietly, or carry Camille's mission to the end. The flash drive. The documents. The secrets. It was all a loaded weapon. As the rain beat harder against the windows, Derek knew something with terrible clarity. The real story wasn't just about betrayal. It was about legacy. Truth. And a reckoning long overdue. The airport was crowded, but Vanessa wasn't just another passenger, she was running. She had cut her long dark hair, dyed it red, and wore sunglasses too large for her face. The baby was in a carrier against her chest, and her fake passport sat warm in her jacket pocket. Her new name? Marie Duchamp. Destination? Geneva, Switzerland. She planned to vanish with what she believed was left of the money. Only she didn't know yet that the money was gone, and that someone was watching her every move. Camille's final checkmate. Back in New Orleans, Derek sat across from an FBI agent named Royce Mallory, a tall, quietly intense man with years of silence in his eyes. You understand that what you've brought us could blow open a 3-state fraud ring? Royce asked, flipping through Camille's files. Derek nodded slowly. I didn't know until now. I thought I just fell in love with the wrong person. Royce tilted his head. You didn't fall in love, Mr. Westwood. You were targeted. He slid a picture across the table. Vanessa, younger, with Martin Hale and 2 other women. They've run this scam for years. Wealthy men. Emotional stress. A woman with the perfect connection. Then, inheritance, surprise pregnancy, marriage, and financial bleed out. You're not the first. But Camille, she figured it out. She left this trail. She did more than that, Royce said. She hacked into accounts that were considered untouchable. Swiss-based. Cayman-registered. Offshore shells behind offshore shells. She left evidence we couldn't have dreamt of getting. Derek whispered, she knew she was dying, and she spent her last year doing this. Royce's voice softened. Your wife was braver than most agents I've worked with. The trap is sprung. Vanessa was just 2 steps away from boarding when the Interpol agents approached her. She smiled at first, thinking they were harmless security officers. Then they asked for her passport. When they read her real name aloud, Vanessa Jane Marshall, her blood turned to ice. Back in New Orleans. Derek stood with Royce in the quiet conference room when the call came. Royce answered, listened, and nodded. Then hung up. She's in custody. The child's safe. You'll need to take a DNA test to confirm you're not the father, but based on your wife's file, we expect it'll match the earlier test. Derek exhaled, slowly, painfully. He wasn't free. But he was no longer hunted by illusions. Still, a question burned, what about Hale? Royce's jaw tightened. He vanished hours before Vanessa was arrested. He's smart. Slippery. But with what Camille gave us, we might finally corner him. The safe house. Vanessa sat in a bare room across a steel table. Her hair was damp from the rain. Her eyes, normally sharp and seductive, looked lost. Derek walked in, slowly. They stared at each other for several moments. She broke the silence first. You came to gloat? No, he said. I came for answers. She gave a short, humorless laugh. Why? You already have Camille's files. What else do you want? I want to know, did you ever care? Even for a moment? Her mouth twitched. I cared about what you could give me. Attention. Escape. Security. But love? No. Love's for people who can afford to bleed. And the baby? Not yours. Never was. The father's long gone. A bartender in Miami. He doesn't even know. Derek stood frozen. You were always the mark, Derek. Camille was the only one who ever stood in the way. Camille's final letter. When he returned to the hotel that night, the front desk handed him a final envelope. It had been delivered by hand. He opened it slowly. It was Camille's handwriting. Derek. If you're reading this, then everything's been revealed. I know what you must be feeling, guilt, anger, confusion. But let me offer you peace instead. You weren't the first man to be deceived. And you won't be the last. What matters now is what you choose to do with the truth. I didn't leave you money to make you rich. I left you freedom, to rebuild, to reflect, to make amends. Take care of yourself. Be kind to Emily. And if you can, forgive yourself someday. Love is rarely perfect. But it's real, even when it's broken. Forever. Camille. Derek didn't cry. He couldn't. But something shifted inside him. A quiet collapse of walls that had stood too long. A visit to her grave. Weeks later, Derek stood alone under a weeping willow in the cemetery, staring at Camille's headstone. He had placed a simple bouquet of magnolias, her favorite. He whispered, I'm sorry. The wind rustled the leaves. He stood there for a long time. What Vanessa said in court. During the early hearings, Vanessa pleaded guilty to several counts of fraud. In exchange for a reduced sentence, she offered names, account numbers, and the exact location of Martin Hale's last known safe house in France. The prosecution believed she was trying to save herself. But the damage was done. She'd left behind more than victims. She'd destroyed every bridge that might have saved her. Her final words before sentencing were bitter. Camille played us all. Even me. She didn't just win. She destroyed the board. Martin Hale, ghost or target? Interpol raided 2 locations in southern France linked to Hale. Both were empty. But one had surveillance footage from the week before Vanessa's arrest. A man, matching Hale's description, loading cash into a car. On the back seat. A framed photo of a young Camille, barely 10 years old. The caption on the back read, "My biggest regret." The world hadn't seen Hale since. But Camille had given them his scent. And Royce promised, "We won't stop until he's brought in." Emily's revelation. Weeks later, Derek met Emily for lunch. She leaned in and said, "I read Camille's journal." "You did?" "She left a copy in my mailbox." "What did you find?" Emily's voice cracked. "She knew everything, and still asked me to forgive you. To help you heal. She didn't hate you, Derek. She was sad for you." He looked down. "I don't expect your forgiveness," he said. "I don't know if I'll ever fully give it," Emily replied. "But I'll help you heal. For Camille. The baby." The DNA test confirmed it, the child wasn't Derek's. Still, when the courts asked if he wanted any custody involvement, Derek hesitated. He thought of Camille's words, "Don't let her raise our child in lies." Vanessa had used that baby as bait. But the child was innocent. He visited the baby in foster care once. Held her. She had Camille's eyes. He didn't know what he would decide. But something in him stirred. Not obligation. Hope. The final twist. 1 month later, Royce called Derek. "We got a tip from Interpol. A woman in Spain said she'd been visited by a man named Hale. Claimed to be her uncle. Left her a package." Derek sat upright. "And?" The package had old photos. From 30 years ago. A small girl in pigtails. Her father beside her. Then another, her father shaking hands with Camille's father. What does it mean? It means Hale didn't just know Camille's father. Royce paused. He was him. Derek went cold. Camille's father, is Martin Hale? That's why she tracked him for years. She found out. But she never told anyone. Why? Maybe she needed to believe she could end the cycle. The night was cold and quiet when Martin Hale stepped out of the car. Derek stood frozen at the top of his porch stairs. Their eyes met. One man had lost everything. The other had taken everything, and yet looked just as hollow. "I wondered when you'd show up," Derek said. Martin Hale didn't speak right away. His hands were open. Empty. He wasn't here to fight. He was here because there was nowhere else left to go. "Can I come in?" Hale asked, his voice gravelly. Derek hesitated. "You're lucky Camille isn't alive." "She was always smarter than me," Hale said softly. Derek opened the door. A conversation 20 years too late. Inside the dimly lit living room, Derek poured 2 cups of black coffee. No milk. No sugar. Neither of them deserved comfort. Hale sat in silence for a few minutes, then finally spoke. "I'm dying," he said simply. Derek didn't blink. "Cancer. Stage 4. Liver. Good, Derek said flatly. I figured I had a few weeks left. I thought I'd try to disappear quietly, but the truth started rotting me before the cancer ever did. Derek stared at him, unmoved. You've rotted lives for decades. Camille's included. Martin nodded. And now you know why she chased me. Derek's fists clenched. You were her father. By blood. Nothing more. Camille's search for the ghost. Martin Hale told him the full story. He was 24 when Camille was born. Her mother, Lillian, was barely 19. They weren't married, and Martin wasn't the type to stay. He left when Camille was 6 months old. No goodbye. No child support. Just vanished, Hale said. I changed my name, started working in the shadows. Fraud, finance, scams. I thought I'd buried that part of my life. But Camille never gave up searching. She found me when she was 19, he whispered. Didn't say anything. Just watched. Studied me. I didn't even know. It wasn't until years later, when Vanessa joined his team, that he realized someone was working against him from the inside. Your wife, Hale said, outplayed us all. The true meaning of the will. Derek finally stood. He walked to the bookshelf and pulled out Camille's sealed red envelope. I never understood it at first, he said, placing the envelope on the table. This letter. Her last will. It wasn't about money. It wasn't even about revenge. He opened it and read aloud. To the man who broke my heart and the father who broke my spirit. I leave behind the truth, because lies built the world I suffered in. I leave you knowledge, because ignorance cost me years I'll never get back. And I leave you my peace, because you never found your own. This is not a goodbye. This is a beginning, for you both. Make it worth something. Camille. Tears stung Derek's eyes. Even now, in death, Camille had left them both with a choice. Not punishment. Responsibility. Hale's confession. Hale stood slowly, pulled a small leather notebook from his jacket, and placed it on the table. What's this? Derek asked. Everything Camille couldn't find, Hale said. Names. Accounts. The rest of the network. I didn't give it to the